Thank you. So our first performance or lecture performance will be by Astrit Ismaili, also known as Astro, who is a performance artist originally from Kosovo, working on body transformation and opening imaginaries to challenge our body politics. Astrid creates alter egos, body extensions, wearable music, instruments, and today is presenting pieces from the new body in a lecture performance. And so, without further ado, I will leave the stage to Astrid.
Hello. I think yes. Hi, thank you for the introduction, Juliet. So, maybe let's start this talk by saying that I started being interested in body extensions since 2012 when I constructed a wearable body extension which you would normally wear around the waist. And I was inspired by this traditional clothing in the region of Kosovo from women of Hasi, who used to wear a structure of wood integrated in their traditional clothing that they would wear every day. And this structure of wood that was worn around the waist helped them to transport things like water or other objects from region to region. And I was fascinated how this technology served these women and in their everyday life. So then I constructed this hip piece, which is called Kullani. And basically it looks a little bit like an airplane wings that you wear around your waist, and it's a wooden structure. And it helps to carry different objects without using your hands. So this was like the starting point. And today I brought some part of my instrument of the performance, The New Body. So this instrument I designed myself, but I worked in collaboration with Jaromir Mouders, who did the engineering inside. And in Kosovo, we did the construction of the instruments. So basically, I worked with an entire neighborhood who usually constructs things from metal. And we kind of made this illustration that I draw a long time before we even constructed it. We made this illustration happen. The instrument has 7 parts: the head, the hands, the legs, and the hips. But the hips, I didn't bring them because they are very complex and complicated, and I cannot really talk and describe because they really affect the way of how the body moves. But I just brought the rest so that you can have a little bit of an idea of how it works. Not to forget, the very important part of the whole instrument is this little fishnet, which I wear and which I call my skin, my new skin. And this is fishnetted by my friend and favorite fashion designer, Flaka Jahaj. The project was supported by Mondrian funds and Stedelijk Museum and Kunstverein Amsterdam, SALS in Basel, and Lambda 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 in Pristina. I've been touring with this project for 2 years, and now I'm working on a new project, which is like some kind of a continuation of this prior project. Before I'll show you how the instrument works, I would like to polish it. So, usually when I perform this performance, it's dark. So, you don't really see the entire structure and you don't really see my body. You see these LED lights here. Oops. Okay. I mean, now we can't really see them, but the instrument has these LED lights, and when it's dark, basically it creates a new silhouette of my body, and that's why I called it the new body, because I was bored of my human body on stage, and I wanted to create something, to add something to my body, and somehow relieve myself from the responsibility of representation of my background, my identity. I wanted to propose somehow a new utopian body. And I was very much inspired by the sea creatures that live very deep in the sea, and that they have these fluorescent organs, and that you could only see somehow an illusion of them, but you don't really see them, how they're really shaped, but you see what is lighted, what is lit. Let me show you a little bit how the instrument works. Which part should I? Okay, so I would like to start with a headpiece. Basically, this normally would go on my head, but since today I decided to have this head, then I'm gonna use this other head. Okay, let's see how that's gonna work. Okay, before I put this in, there's a little computer that basically makes the instrument work. In this computer that Jaromir constructed, there is a small speaker, 2 sensors, one distance sensor and one movement sensor, a little computer called Teensy, which programs the information, the data for the sound, and the samples that I recorded, which when the instrument is moving, so these samples are triggered. Basically, there are, in this part of the instrument, the head part, there are 5 samples. And I'll play with these samples. To show you, I'm gonna turn it on. Put it on the head, nice and slowly. Okay. So it doesn't fit so well because it's made for my head, but you'll have the idea. So normally in the performance, when I do this, you hear this sound. Do you hear it? So it says koha. Koha in Albanian means time. And if I do this, if I do this, it means I want. Dua, I want. So, I want time. I want time. But I want other things as well. If I do this, Haye, it means eat it in Albanian. And Jithmon, it means forever. So I one time eat it forever. So basically the concept behind this instrument is actually pretty serious. I'm trying to make it like fun, but so basically I imagine a body that is completely self-sustainable. So a body that doesn't need any energy from outside, a body that can produce its own energy, and the energy is manifested through sound. So basically when the body is moving, it's producing energy for itself. It doesn't need to connect to anyone, it doesn't need anyone, it only needs themselves. And so basically these 4 sounds are working with a movement sensor, but this sound, should change position. This sound, what would I want to say about it? This sound is basically using a distance sensor. So if you have something in front of it, hair everywhere. If you have something in front of it, then it triggers the sound. All the voices of the instruments, all the sounds of these instruments are voices. Basically, the voice of my instrument is the voice of a friend of mine. Her name is Edona Vatovci. She's a singer. And she basically gave her voice to the new body. And everything what you're gonna hear right now, most of it, like 85% of the sounds, are produced by her voice. And basically I use these sounds to create a soundscape for my performance and perform that score every time I perform. So every time I do this project, basically the sound is always the same, and I'm just playing a musical composition that I wrote for this instrument. The performance is normally around 35 to 45 minutes, sometimes 20 minutes, depending on the occasion. Let's move on with the next, the next part of the instrument. So basically, this part of the instrument, which are the legs, the foot, they are powered by, how is it called? Power bank. But the smaller parts are powered by batteries. The batteries that you can charge. Is this the right one? Okay, because I broke one on the way back. I mean, it's fixable, but breaks like everything, like my heart. Okay. So we're gonna put the battery inside, hoping that it's not gonna let us down. We put the battery, and then we turn it on. Okay, good sign, good sign. Okay, one thing about this instrument is that it's very hard to keep it quiet. So when you wear the whole structure, there is only 2 positions that you can make the instrument quiet. Otherwise, if you move just a little bit, it's gonna make sound. And you don't wanna be messy, you wanna control it. And this is the most beautiful part about working in this project, is that actually I fail at controlling it most of the time. So it's really a challenge, because it's like an instrument. If you don't play it every day, you're not gonna be a great performer. So you need to somehow rule it. But at the same time, I see it more like kind of like a dialogue. Sometimes we're in harmony, sometimes we're not. Me and my new body, sometimes we have a good time together, but sometimes we don't. And then that shows in a performance, and that's what it makes a performance real, because I'm always kind of like fighting with it, and I'm always present, because I'm always trying to make it work. So although there is a very clear goal and intention and a music score that I follow, it's always very interesting to keep it, to make a good show. So I'll show you a little bit more how it sounds. It's very basic. When I said I'm looking for a change now, didn't mean to make it better. Wow. Looking for a change. Looking for a change. What? Looking for a change. Looking for a change. Zanim kudoczeszkoj Ede kuczeszuhem do ważdoj Tu mandala skušnuk do gucoj Zanim je honderi satroj and stuff. So basically I'm saying my voice will echo until I die, and even when I die it will still echo. Nobody's gonna be able to stop it. It's there and it's gonna echo. It's not my voice, but it's the voice of my instrument. But also my voice, I hope. Yeah. And now, actually, the most kind of impressive part of the instrument is the hips. But it's also the most complicated part. And I couldn't really bring it here because it would be really difficult to put it on. But it's basically this part here that looks a little bit like a rib cage. It's pretty massive and heavy. And so you see it there. So basically it has these two parts here, and then it has these lines, these tubes, these copper tubes coming out, and then inside these tubes there are the veins which are connected to the LED lights. And when I'm doing this kind of movement, it makes a sound like and then I sing to it, and I combine all these different samples, and I make like a fuller soundscape. And to wrap it up, I'm gonna hop into this shoe. Basically, these are, I love these shoes. They're so cool. Because my grandmother used to wear something like this. You know, they look a little bit like these Japanese geisha shoes. But actually, their origin is from Asia, but they were also pretty popular. I guess they came through Ottoman Empire, so I don't know. But they were pretty popular back in the days. And I made like a more kind of extreme version of them. And I put some little nails to make it a little edgy. And then there's like a little computer here as well. There's a little speaker. This is very simple technology. A speaker, a power bank, a USB cable, the computer, the memory stick, the SD card for the samples. And I'm gonna wear it and just show you it has only two samples. I think I'm gonna keep the old shoes ones. Ah. So fab, no? So, okay, so if I put my leg like this, it has this very grim sound. And I turn it off, I control it, and then I have this little beat. It's a bit difficult to do with. This is very. A little bitch, you don't fuck with me if you wanted to. This expensive, this is red bottoms, this is bloody shoes. Hit the store, I can bet on both. I don't wanna choose, cause I'm rich, won't be comfortable. Okay, this is it from my presentation. If you guys have any questions, I'm here to answer it. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, hello. Hello. Thank you, Astrit, very much for this beautiful presentation. Wait, I'm gonna put the camera a bit better to us. And before we move on to our next performance, or lecture performance, I wanted to ask you a few questions, and maybe we have some questions for the audience, so let's see for that later. But my first question is, how did you start making these instruments? I mean, you said that it was like the first one was this hip one, inspired by Kosovo, but like how did you start, like really wanted to dive into this specific technology, also with like sensors and like what's,
Yeah. Basically, I would actually, it was not because I was interested in technology or because I was interested in this kind of type of technology, or that I was interested in sensors or programming, but I just had a vision and I had no idea how to make it happen, but I was just like, I want to create this new body with this new silhouette, this new shape, and I want every time when the body moves, to create a certain type of sound. But I didn't have any knowledge about how this is gonna work out. And this is also the most challenging but also the most interesting part, to kind of like try to make your vision. Basically it started with this. And it's pretty it's like the same. And I have look, I just imagined everything, and somehow I was like, I did some research and I made like all the parts that are inside, I kind of imagined them. I was like, if we do this, this should work. But I had no idea how to. But then there are so many people out there who do this for a living, you know, like they program, they hack, they design. And I was like, hey dude, come here, you wanna work? But it was very hard to find the right person to work with, because now it's very rare when people wanna do something that it doesn't exist, you know? People just, yeah, they're not so enthusiastic. I mean, some people are, but most of the people are like, oh, why are you putting yourself into this? You know, like it's an experiment, it's so hard. But yeah, with Jaromir, we managed to work together, and of course we did many compromises because my vision sometimes was too ambitious, but then we did what we could.
And I was just wondering if like this figure, because when we see the performance, I was lucky enough to see the performance once, and when we see the performance, yeah, we can't help but think about this also like cyborg figure. So I'm wondering if there is, if you were influenced by, yeah, like cyborgs and like this kind of narratives of like humanoid, human technological beings.
Yes, but in a very indirect way, because somehow my performative journey, somehow the discourse around my work and how it developed, I think it started to have a radical turn when I started using fiction as kind of the main, like speculative fabulation as a form of narrative. And this entailed the possibility to think about new bodies and create new realities. And of course, technology has been always part of our lives. I think the first kind of like, I don't know which one was the first technological act, but I think that fire as well, the production of fire from two rocks, that is also technology. So, I mean, technology is like it's us, we are technology, and I don't see like a division with that. But I'm trying for the future projects to think more about working with technology which is maybe not so digital, because I feel that the digital technology somehow is taking over our lives. And I think that in a performance context, it would be nice to actually use as less digital technology as possible to have a break from that.
Yeah, that's probably very much needed.
Yeah.
I wonder if we have any questions in the chat. A lot of admiration. That is great. Always love admiration. So I'm gonna ask another question then.
Thank you.
Do you want to talk a little bit about your last piece, Miss, and also how you're developing it? Because I know that for that specific piece, you also developed a head piece that you didn't bring today, but maybe interesting to talk about it shortly.
Part of these projects and the processes of these projects very often lead to failure. You have to acknowledge that fact. If you want to invent something that it doesn't exist, that means that 95% of the cases, it's gonna fail the first time. But that doesn't mean that you should stop. I mean, maybe you should stop, but basically with Miss, which is my last project that I developed last year, it's an 1 hour of opera, and basically for this project I wanted to invent 3 new wearable instruments, but it was a little bit ambitious for the time frame that we had. But we still tried, and we came up with this flower hat piece, which grows during 1 hour with some kind of like a mechanism of an antenna. So it grows like a plant during 1 hour very slowly. And in the future, we were planning to also have the sound aspect, which will be developed on the Miss Part 2. We also had this wearable xylophone, which we tried to digitalize, but that was didn't work. But I guess what I learned is that time is such an important element in these projects like this. You have to invest time, and you have to also count time for failure. So if it fails, you have to stay with it, and it can take a longer time until you're happy with the final result. And hopefully by next year, the instruments will be finished and they will be ready for Miss Part 2. And I'm starting research in next 2 weeks at Bouw Air residency in Amsterdam, where I'm going to focus mostly on how to develop these 3 new instruments and how to cope with failure.
That's an amazing message for every person who is doing a project at the moment. Before we let you go, maybe you want to say who did your makeup and who made this beautiful wig?
Yes, so my makeup was done by Samuel. Sam, thank you so much, darling. We made filters real. And hair from Julia, or AKA OZ. I'm in love with these wigs, this choreography. I cannot wait to bring more from Julia, Ozzy. And maybe, yeah, I want to thank also my all-time, well, she's not a stylist, she's a fashion designer, but she's always sending me stuff that she makes, Flaka Yahai. And yeah, I always collaborate with her. And Joop for the shoes.
Thank you so much, Astrid. We're gonna clear the stage for our next performer, and I need to take my notebook because otherwise I can't do the proper introduction. So. Applause, yes. I can also be here. Maybe it's okay.